right. We are at the creators table tonight with 4 creators of amazing immersive horror experiences. Tonight we are discussing finding your audience and all of the things that might entail. I'm going to start with having our creators introduce themselves and their shows. And the last 2 times we've talked, it's been just that simple, but I'm going to throw something else into this first question here this time, which is to say, who is the right audience for your show? And we can start once more with the Blackheart Collective.
My name is Joshua Simon Lake. I am still the creative director of the Blackheart Collective. The right audience member for us. I always tell people that we're looking for people who are open-minded with a willingness to be vulnerable and a willingness to roleplay a dark mirror version of themselves.
Matt Hester, co-creator of The Fear Experiment, Central Illinois. As far as our audience, I sort of view it as people that want to challenge themselves, which again is why I was so interested in it. Facing a frightening situation and coming out, finding out who you really are. Are you brave? I don't know. You go through it and you find out, what you're really made of.
My name is Justin Brink. I am the creator of Miasma. Who is the audience, the right audience? That can be a lot of different people. Over the last 6 years, I've seen all kinds of people come through, but in general, the one thing they all have in common is that they want to see something different, and they want to experience something that they've never experienced before, or they are huge immersive horror fans and they just want to keep doing it over and over again. So explorers, adventurers, adrenaline junkies, all different types.
My name is Blayne Adams, and I am the creator and co-creator of STAG, an immersive horror experience. We are based in Saginaw, Michigan. Our audience base, so we have 2 audience bases, I would say. Our summer show, which is a public experience, is for adventurers, explorers, people that are horror enthusiasts and they want something more, want to kick it up a notch. And then our winter show is a 2-hour experience, and that is an application-based process. And so I would say that that's for enthusiasts. We do ask that they've been through an immersive horror show before. And yeah, just anybody that, like Justin said, looking to do something different and get a taste of something a little taboo or dark.
So you have 2 different styles of shows. You have 2 different ways that you get your audience members. Has that been how you've done things since the beginning?
Oh, no. Okay, so we started as just a 30-minute experience in 2016. I wasn't even sure if anybody would come or would enjoy it or would like that type of thing. And we ended up having like a pretty good turnout. And so we did it again that Halloween, which was called STAG Halloween. And then after having really good feedback from that show, we ended up doing our 2017 Perversion show. And then in 2018, we did our addiction show, and then we had one of our guests who had been through every show so far, and they were from Michigan, and they had been to Blackout also several times, and they asked us to do something called a private show, which I had read about Blackout's private shows at that time, and I didn't think that, I don't know, I was nervous about it, and this woman, her name was Rebecca Hollywood, and she recently passed away, but she knew she was dying. This is a whole story, I'm sorry. And so she bought a private show for her spouse, Dave. And so she was like, will you please do this for me? I want to buy this for him before I'm gone, and it's his birthday in February. And I was like, I was like, you know what? I got 2 kids. I'm in college. I'm like, February is about the only time I could pull this off. So it ended up working. And then I told Justin about it, and he's like, can I come? And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay. And I was talking to other like people that had been through our show, and we ended up having other people ask. So we opened it up to 4 spaces, and thus birthed the STAG private show. So that's how that happened. So that's why we now do 2 shows. And, you know, every time STAG is over in the summer, prior to us doing a private show in the winter, I always wanted more. I always wanted to do more. Being a single mother and being in college, I'm almost done with my master's degree. So then, you know, I'll be done, and I can do more things. But it was always just really hard to find the time and the childcare and the resources, and it's difficult. And sometimes you feel kind of alone doing this, you know, type of thing, because not everybody cares about immersive horror experiences. And so, yeah, but I found my way, and I feel like the audience is always asking for more. And there is just enthusiasts that love this type of thing, and they want to do it, and they're willing to travel, and they're willing to, you know, pay what you need for your resources. And so it all works out.
I think it's so special that you had an audience member reach out to you for something like that, and then you responded and you made it happen. How have other shows y'all's adapted according to what audience members have told you they wanted or asked for, and just those kinds of special connections? What are ways they've affected the productions you're putting on?
I'll go. So watching guests go through the experience is where you really get informed. I think, you know, anybody can speak here to say that, you know, something that you might have created a scene that you think is brilliant, and everybody's going to love it. And, you know, your guest walks right through it, and, you know, without much interest. And then lo and behold, something you didn't put any thought into, something that you threw together at the last minute, you're like, okay, they get here, then I guess we have to make them do this in order to get to scene B. And then everybody's like, that thing you did before I made it to scene B was the greatest thing I've ever seen. So I think that's really how you get informed. I mean, Blayne's laughing because she knows what I'm talking about. It happens all the time. And you know, that's where you kind of get informed. I think sometimes, and this is going to sound super rude, but I don't care. Sometimes when an audience member tells you they want more, or that something should go a certain way, they aren't necessarily always right. You know, because what they have in their head might be very different from the reality of what you can do. And that, I mean, that goes from what Blayne said for budget, if that goes for safety, that goes for a lot of things. You know, I think the real information to get from the audience is actually watching them go through the experience. And that's what's going to inform you beyond anything that anybody will ever tell you.
I know for us, we react in the moment really, really often, to the point where, because one of the things that can happen in our shows is what the guest does affects our storyline. And so there have been times where we can tell what they're reacting to, and we know what they're looking for, and we've rewritten shows in the middle of a show. We're lucky we can do that just due to the nature of remote, and we're able to pivot and go with the directions that people are leaning into, or the things that we know are highly effective. And so we just try to always keep moving along with our audience and pushing the story. I mean, our second show was meant to be a remount of the first show. It became a completely different show. It was rewritten on the second day based on the audience and how they were reacting in the moment. It became a thing of, okay, we love this, let's keep going. But I mean, in other shows we do, things will never change. We know our story, we know where we're going, but there have been some really fun moments where I go, hey, this is happening and this participant did X. Let's move with it. Let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, I like when we first got started, I did a ton of research on just basic human psychology and what are the natural fears for human beings on a basic biological level. So if you hit, these certain marks, it's going to affect everybody on some primal level, regardless of who you are. Different people react to different things based on their environment, how they grew up, what they've experienced. But there are certain things that you will hit pretty much everybody. And like Justin was saying that, you'll have a scene that you just think is absolutely brilliant, that, oh my gosh, everybody's going to lose their crap, here. And some people will. And I've been shocked at that some people called safety at places like, really? Oh my gosh, that was almost a nothing. That was a nothing. And then, pushed right through things that I thought were absolutely shocking. But like, to me, you stick to the story, you deliver it, consistently and safely every time. Certainly you have the ability to observe the patron and how they're reacting, and you can adjust a little bit accordingly. I mean, if they're really, really losing it, you can reel it back, pull back just a little bit. And if they seem like they want more, you can push it a little bit further, but yeah.
So to pivot a little bit, Blayne mentioned STAG having both a private and a more open experience. And let's continue on with you, Matt, for a second. How has that operated for you with the Fear Experiment? Is that open to anybody who happens to hear about it and want to go?
We're still young enough at this point that I have an email list, and right now, if you want to buy a ticket and you understand what you're getting into, then please buy a ticket. I would love in the future to get to a point where, we sell out so quick that, it's sort of our elite group. But yeah, right now it's open to anybody who fully understands. And we even, we have the whole waiver signing process and everything at the beginning. And again, running through the rules, going through the waiver with them. This is your last chance. You know what you're going into. But no, we don't. It's not invite only at this point. Soon.
But has that been enough for you? Do they know what they're going into?
Yeah. We're very on the website, even going to buy the tickets, they have to read and like Justin said, we list absolutely everything they could possibly encounter that has ever been in a show. We go ahead and listed that. Not kidding. In our last show, we tied people up, we cut their clothing off, and we bathed them. And we had to make that very, very clear. Your clothes will be removed. Bring an extra pair of clothing. You will not get them back because they are going to be cut off and destroyed. We lost some customers over that they're like, nope, that's too far for me. But the people that were well informed, they came and they eagerly participated.
That's very kind of you. I feel like people normally leave these less clean than they went in.
Well, they weren't cleaned well. They were cleaned with filthy water, and we brushed their teeth with, I used, what was it, baking soda? If you ever had, if you have dogs, that bitter spray that prevents dogs from chewing on stuff that's so bitter, and then just a little bit of water to make it into a paste, and then we brush their teeth with our fingers.
Well, that's the thought that counts.
So their teeth were very clean.
What about you, Justin? How do you let people know about what they might be encountering? And have you found that it's enough?
Like we had talked about in a previous episode, we list everything possible that, might happen, has happened on the website. The waiver before they go into there, but a lot of it is we are an invite-only show. So the process to get an invite is you need to sign up online, and then you have to you have to essentially, when it's time to get an invite, you have to perform a task of some sort. Generally, that task is informative of who you are and your character. And if we choose from those people, so we kind of whittle it down. And you know, there's more that happens behind the scenes that I won't go into, but you know, it comes down to, we want to make sure that the people that are coming want to be here, and they're going to put in the work to want to be here.
Yeah.
And you know, we've been around for a while, so we do have a very large email list. I don't have a problem saying that, but you know, so it's becoming more of a challenge. It's becoming harder to get into the show because of that. But you know, it's oddly made. It's oddly made the people that want to be there and should be there and know what they're getting into more likely to be there. And since our lists have grown, and since the individuals that want to get in have grown, we've seen a much more informed audience over the last few years.
And what about you, Josh? How do you go about figuring out who's going to be in your audiences? Because unlike these shows, you have larger audiences than any of them, I believe.
Our last show had 50 people in it. And so initially we selected our audience ourselves. I would go out, I would find them through very creepy means for our first show. And then that was refined over time when we realized I couldn't just pick the audience. Now, every participant does a 30-minute telephone interview with me. I lay out everything. If anyone ever wanted to know anything about Blackheart, I tell them pretty much everything that could possibly happen to them in our experience. We have a conversation about it. We stopped just shy of getting an emergency contact for our participants, because we know what we do is not for everybody. And so I like to have a really open conversation with everyone. And if they're willing to take the time out of their day to spend 30 minutes on the phone with me and let me get to know them, I can usually determine pretty easily if this is something somebody really wants to do. Because I allow them a ton of chances for an out. I temp check them through the whole thing and say, okay, this, you know, and this. And it's been pretty successful. It's a lot of time. It's very time consuming. I did 60 hours of interviews for our last show.
Have you found that there are any clear signals of, okay, this is not going to be a match, that you can tell easily?
It's really different for every person, you know, and so it's usually not me who makes the decision if they should be in the show, especially if they shouldn't take part in our show. They can tell. They know. We'll get to a certain point in our conversation and I'll give them, hey, this is something that we do. And 99% of people gracefully will say, hey, I don't think this is for me.
I want to jump in that follow up. There's definitely, I'm not going to say what they are because then people won't do them. There are very clear signs for when a show is not appropriate for someone. And the people that shouldn't be going through the show often display those signs very clearly. And, you know, those are very clear signals to me that this is not the right place for them.
Oh yeah, it's typically very easy. It's real easy to tell if these are experiences people should be doing.
I want to talk a little bit about the actual finding of the audience, whether that is through very creepy methods, as JSL has so eloquently put, or more traditional marketing. I know that, well, Blackheart's everywhere, and I believe the three of you are all in the Midwest. Is Michigan considered the Midwest? You're all in the Midwest. But, you know, Blackout did New York and LA. There's so many in LA. How have you all found the Midwest to be in terms of being receptive to what you do? And how have you drawn people into the experiences you're providing?
So I guess I can start. The very first thing that I've ever done was, well, I was with my kid's dad at the time, and he ran concerts. And so he was doing this music festival, and I put up a tent there with a table and a tunnel going under the table to the tent. And I had just a 5-minute free experience. and I like put the rules up on a whiteboard. I got a vinyl sign that had our logo, and I got some emails of people that were at the concert. And so that was the first experience that I ever did. It wasn't like a formal, STAG, but that was just kind of like a beta test, and to see like if people enjoyed it and just to kind of get our name out there. And then the very first year I Facebook added like crazy. I did so many Facebook ads. I paid like $500 in ads, I think. And I mean, it worked. It grew our following. People were interested. I would say we got a lot of locals and not so much enthusiasts, the first year. But again, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was still learning. And I think it was after that first show, that first year that I did 2 shows, was when I got in touch with Justin, and just kind of started learning more about safety, more about the audience. And I think people started talking about us. And so I joined the immersive community on Facebook, and then the extreme haunt community on Facebook, and I would post there, AA represent. And
I'm the admin.
Yeah.
Am I not in this group? Yeah.
Are you not?
I don't know. Send me an invite, Justin. Sorry,
Okay.
Sorry, Blayne.
That's okay. And so like, I would say our audience was very small at first, and then, we got a couple of like, a haunted house reviewer came through and reviewed us. And so I guess just word of mouth kind of happened, and the people that were interested found us, if that makes sense.
Marketing's a forever challenge, no matter what. When we started, obviously it was pretty early, so there were no communities formed. There was no extreme haunt group on Facebook. There was really nothing. I even think No Proscenium was actually very early in its stages. There was no Great American Horror Road Trip. Like there was nothing. So, it was a real challenge to even describe what it is exactly you were doing. Imagine trying to say it's like a haunted house, but not. That's what it came down to. But eventually the language evolved. Eventually, we were very lucky to have the Chicago Tribune review us that first year, and that was a huge help to kind of. And she did such a wonderful job of describing it as something different. And then it kind of evolved from there with clearly people read it. Clearly people went to the website. I think our website has always been intriguing enough. Once someone finds us, right now, I'm skipping over a lot here, but because it's been such a long evolution, I think it started with just trying to find where are the communities. They weren't in the Midwest yet. Not at all. And I would argue that it still hasn't quite found its footing here. But I reached out to Southern California. That was where it was happening. That's where like most of the fans were. And My Haunt Life was early on. They were pretty much the voice of anything immersive horror and extreme at the time. So I reached out to them, and it started a friendship. Really, I wasn't trying to market too much. Generally, if I reach, I've always tried to make friendships before I try to do business, and that's really important to me because at the end of the day, we're doing our art projects and we got to do this. And if it doesn't become something, at least I'm leaving with a lot of friendships. So what I'm getting at, I'm like going all over the place here. It's been a long road. And the most important thing that you can do is your audience will speak louder than anyone ever will. If you get enthusiasts, you only need a few. They will spread. It'll go viral. Not in the on this million sense, but once people talk and once people love you, like that's super important. And that will spread faster and build your audience faster than anything. The problem with that is then you start getting nervous because the expectations keep getting higher and higher. So, you know,
That part.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all about putting on a good show, making sure that, I shouldn't say make sure, but finding those people that are going to be your cheerleaders, and they will push it out more than any review, any write-up ever will. I think, and we were in the New York Times a couple of years ago, and I still think we get more people come to us more from word of mouth than they ever did from that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think people travel, mainly people travel to our shows. I don't think there's a lot of local Midwest people coming to our shows.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, Matt, as somebody particularly in the middle of nowhere, what
Yeah.
has your experience been here?
Very much like Blayne's. Started off with just spending way too much money on Facebook ads, just targeted towards adrenaline junkies, horror fans, whatever. And yeah, not a lot of local people, and still not a lot of local people. Yep. Of course, you know, I have business cards, and I just absolutely, I network like everywhere I go. Every single place I go, you know, if I'm in the gas station, you know, that'll be $3 or whatever. Like, you like scary stuff? And if they say, yeah, then I know, okay, well, never mind. But it's like, oh yeah, I freaking love scary stuff. Then you want one of my cards. And again, like, it is so hard to explain what it is. Like, if they say, so it's like a haunted house, well, kind of, but no, not even close. You know, I kind of say it's kind of like being in your own horror movie, and you get to be like the star of your own horror movie. That's as close as I can usually, you know, come to do it. But exactly, once you get a few people that have come through, loved it, they tell people, and then word spreads, that's everything. Because that's when you start getting that reputation, and word of mouth is always the best advertising ever.
And what about you, Josh? Have you done any kind of formal advertising at this point? You have a very strong graphic brand that you've created. It's very easy to tell if any image is related to the Blackheart Collective. That's something that I noticed early on with you.
So my professional background is in market research. So I'm a marketing whore. On the other side of that, I'm an aging punk from the Midwest. And so I just tried to combine those two things. I knew a strong visual brand and having it be pretty grassroots in general. We've always relied on word of mouth. I'll say that I happily wasn't covered by haunting.net for a really long time. And I was stoked on it. But yeah, we started on Instagram and just were very, very spooky. And I used hashtags and learned about algorithms. But more than anything, it's always been, yeah, like, I mean, Justin said it, the people who connect with the art we create will always be your loudest, you know, your loudest cheerleaders. And we've just really relied on that. I was never, you know, we were never doing this to become famous. None of us here to do this to be rich. That's for sure. We're not here to be famous because, you know, you're famous to 500, 600 people. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I guess we let the work speak for itself. We kept what we did do secret, basically, and just tried to provoke that, you know, what is this? And I don't think anyone knows what we are until they've done the show. And so, yeah, Instagram is very kind to me. Kris, the Great American Horror Road Trip, was extremely kind to me, as was whatever it was that came before this. And so, yeah, the marketing side of it, though, I mean, you can tell I'm hustling. I'm hustling just images after image after image, trying to keep it relevant and fresh, and do something I know will provoke people, at least in that moment. And so far, I'm just really lucky. I haven't spent $1 on ads yet.
And
so those people, oh, go ahead, Blayne, sorry.
The immersive horror community is pretty tight knit. And like I said, there's those Facebook groups. And so as soon as a new company pops up, people are talking. Who is this? Have you heard of them? As soon as they found out that Blackheart was in Michigan, I had lots of people come to me like, hey, who is this person? They're in Lansing. You should know about this. I'm like, I think this is this guy that I talked to. I'm not sure. And then I found out, oh yeah, it was Josh, because I had been talking to Josh and kind of like mentoring him, just kind of
Yeah.
helping him out, being an ear for him for like a while. And I didn't know the name of his company yet. And so people talk.
Yeah, Blayne was the first person who, from inside of the interior community of creators, who spoke with me, and it was hugely influential on what we did. I was really lucky. I will always consider Blayne a mentor, always. And a kick-ass friend, just period.
All right, so to wrap up, for those people who think they might be the next people to really connect with your art, JSL, where can they find Blackheart?
Come and find us on Instagram at black.heart.collective.
How about the Fear Experiment?
Just go to thefearexperiment.com or look us up on Facebook.
Miasma.
miasmaate.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter. Just look up Miasma Chicago.
And for STAG.
We have Stag Haunt is our Instagram and Twitter handle, and on Facebook it's Stag and Immersive Horror Experience. You can also just Google us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, creators. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.